Understood. So the initial display, which is the left side of this dialog we're looking at, there are four pipe types that are grayed out, and they're grayed out because those four pipe types don't have specific. It's a smart pipe logic issue. Um, there's a way where we can toggle those on temporarily so that we can check the boxes. But that's not that's not going to prevent the program from assigning pipelines to those pipe types. It simply is preventing you from changing the initial visibility for pipelines for those pipe types. So your arm overs are not going to display any pipeline labels, but the program should still be creating pipelines for those arm overs, which you could then turn the label visibility on through the properties of the pipeline after it's created.
Yeah, I noticed that. The only issue I had with that was that, like, there's a couple of 1 inch coming off the mains,
Uh-huh.
and it doesn't list them separate. It lists them just in that pipeline in that main.
Sure.
Is there any way to get those separate, or is it pretty much always going to be attached to those lines?
We can't. We can. That's a good question. We should be able to separate those. Let's go ahead and cancel out of this really fast, and let's take a look at your fab standards, and select the pipeline tab. Excuse me. Okay. Um, so you want the arm overs to be separate pipelines from your cross mains.
Is that this one?
It's the you would need to uncheck the merge pipeline children option. So the
Okay.
program is when you select your arm overs and your cross main and create a pipeline, the program recognizes that the arm overs are a child of the main cross main pipeline, and then it merges them together. Initially, it creates them separately and then merges the arm over pipelines into the cross main pipeline.
Right.
Now, um, if you want your arm overs to be included in your branch line pipeline, you would want to have that box checked.
This one.
The merge
Or
pipeline
is
children.
this one?
So, to be honest, I generally leave that box checked so that my arm overs are included in my branch line
Yeah.
pipelines. But when I am selecting my, or when I'm creating pipelines for my cross mains, what I do is I select just my main pipe type, and I create a pipeline for my cross mains, and then I go back in Windows, select my arm over drops that are connected to my main, and create separate pipelines for those. So I do it in two steps, so the program is not merging them automatically, and I'm not having to change this fab standard setting.
Okay. Hmm. Yeah.
So I guess there's two approaches you can take. One is you can go in here and uncheck the box to merge pipeline children, and then Windows select all of your pipe, cross main, arm over drops, everything at once, and create
Yeah.
pipelines, and the program will keep those separate based on different pipe types. Or you can leave that box checked so that your arm overs are merged into your branch line pipelines, and then just carefully um, select your cross mains and create pipelines for those, and then go back and select any arm overs that are connected to your cross mains and create pipelines for those.
Okay.
So go ahead and select your branch line pipeline for this branch line, this 2 inch that we're looking at here.
Okay.
All right, so I'm not seeing any.
1 inch. This one
So those are flexes. Is that what you got?
is.
Flex drops coming off.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's pipe in here.
Okay.
This one.
Okay. Go ahead and select this one, this pipeline. Open its properties. If you've got the properties dialog open, I'm not seeing that. I don't know if it's on another
Nope.
screen.
Sorry.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. Um, Go ahead and select the pipeline segments tab. And so point 9 through point 14, those are all of your 1 inch. That's all of your arm over pipe. So in the segments column, just check the boxes.
Yeah.
Well, I guess both preface and segment, if you want to see the PD preface. Now, I can walk you through a process of how to change that initial visibility setting, so that you don't have to do this for all the pipelines you're creating. And what I recommend doing is, let's just kind of navigate off into space somewhere, away from the system. Okay, and let's go ahead and draw a piece of pipe. And this is just temporary. We're gonna delete this pipe, but it makes it easier to control this by having some piece of pipe that we can utilize. Okay, so we're going to create a pipeline for this pipe, but before we do that, what I want you to do is go to your settings menu. And I want you to uncheck the box next to Use Smart Pipe.
Okay.
Now, select that pipe and create a pipeline for it. Now, check the boxes that you want for your arm overs, as well as, any other, if you want to set it up for drains, miscellaneous, any of the 4 pipes that are grayed out when we're using Smart Pipe. Go ahead and set those, get those dialed in now.
I mean, I'm good here right now.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead and click Create Pipeline. All right, now go back to your settings menu and check the box to use Smart Pipes back on. All right, go ahead and Windows select this pipe and this branch line and delete it. Okay, now you can go back to your system, and as you continue to select pipe and create pipelines, I don't know if you've got any. I'm not sure if all your pipe is already pipelined or if you've got more that you need to pipeline. But the next time you create pipelines, those same 4 pipe types will be grayed out, but the boxes will be checked.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay. But it still won't create an arm over separate listing. It'll still be part of that pipeline.
No. If you've got back in your Fab Standards pipeline tab setting, if you've unchecked the Merge Pipeline Children, the program will create a separate pipeline for your arm over pipe types and your branch line pipe types.
Okay. I'm just gonna see. Okay, that's what I want.
Perfect.
So separate. So that pipe just here. Other than that, okay. That's what I was looking for, just a separate label for those. I'll work with this. It should be good.
Awesome.
Okay. Alright, I'm gonna hop off.
All right. Good talking to you, Skylar.
Thanks.
Sure thing. All right. Going down the list. Jonah, can you hear me okay?
Dude, can you hear me?
I can. How are you doing?
I'm alright. I just had hopefully a quick question. I'm brand new to sprinkler design. This is like my 3rd week, so I just finished the auto sprink level 1 training.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Understood.
So this is all brand new to me.
Okay.
But so I started my first kind of semi project here. I guess I can share my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. so this is just a big ESFR warehouse here.
Gotcha.
And I get everything in, but then I'm running my calcs, and then I'm just noticing that like over supply over here, I've got like really low pressures here,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't sure if there was something I was doing wrong with that, or I'm kind of getting these low pressures kind of all over the whole entire system.
Okay, so let's take a look at this pipe you have selected. So what these values represent, the right side, that is the pressure that's required at that point. So at
minus 89.
correct.
Okay.
The middle values, the bottom value just above the arrow, that is how much water flow. That's your system flow demand through that segment of pipe. The value just above that, that is your pressure, your calculated pressure loss per foot value.
Oh, okay.
The value on top of that, that's the total pressure loss through that selected pipe segment. So what this tells us is the value on the right end of that pipe minus the top value in the middle should equal the value on the left end of the pipe.
Okay. Okay, that makes some sense then. I was thinking that the top was like, yeah. I thought I read somewhere that the top was like the static and the second was residual. Okay. Makes sense though.
So when we place a checkpoint gauge, we get in platinum we get similar pressure and flow values that populate when we run an analysis and select a checkpoint gauge, and checkpoint gauges do populate static pressure as well as available residual pressure as well as required pressure and flow demand. When we select pipe segments, we only ever get required pressure, calculated pressure loss, total pressure loss, and the flow rate. So it is normal for the values in the center of the pipe segment. It's normal for those two top values to be relatively small because that's the total pressure loss and calculated pressure loss per foot length. As far as your negative required pressure, that's normal to see that when we have a fire pump, and the fire pump is producing all of the pressure needed for the system demand.
Okay. So if I go over here, it should be positive.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
That makes a lot more sense. Guess I just thought that was something else.
No worries, man. No worries.
Okay. But all these numbers seem okay. They don't seem like way off, do they?
The flow demand seems a little low to me, to be honest, for an ESFR system. So I certainly would, recommend double checking your set minimum flow states or set minimum pressures on your sprinkler heads.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like you got 10 plus 30, 40. So you got roughly a 43, 44 GPM demand at node 4434, roughly. Go ahead and select that remote area. Right click on it and select analysis report. Okay, so you've got these heads set to discharge a minimum 7 psi. So you got 16.8K heads discharging a minimum 7 psi, which equals 44.45 GPM each. That minimum 7 psi is probably not appropriate. There's a lot of variables that you'll need to evaluate. For this ESFR system, what type of commodities is being stored here, and storage height, and storage arrangement, etc. But generally, ESFRs have a minimum pressure requirement. Usually, it's something like 40 or 50 psi, which is going to drive your flow demand way, way up.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I just haven't paid too much attention to that yet because I was worried about those zeros that I thought were a bigger deal than they are. So.
No worries, man. Understood.
Okay. So, yeah, I'll look at
But
that minimum
Yeah, but good news is everything's connected. You're able to run a calculation. Everything looks normal. Um,
Yeah.
your base of riser, your checkpoint gauge is not populating any data, so I'm assuming that that checkpoint gauge has been placed at a different system riser, or it's not in line of this remote area calculation.
Okay.
So in that dialogue there,
Right
um,
here.
yeah, in the lower left, so just below that, in the checkpoint gauge data table,
Yeah.
it's populating zero pressure, zero K factor, zero flow. We see that when we've got checkpoint gauges that are connected to adjacent systems where we're not actually flowing water past those points. Or if
Okay.
the
Yeah.
checkpoint gauge hasn't been snapped to an appropriate location, like the end point of a pipe or the center point of a fitting or valve.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't think it's on the system.
That's fine. So just if you want to see that data populate, just either add a new checkpoint gauge and make sure that it's snapped to a valid hydraulic junction point, or relocate that one.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that definitely helps. Just another quick question,
Sure.
if you don't mind.
Yeah, what you got?
I think I'm doing this the right way, but I've gotten the notes back, but I know that they've been disappearing on me every once in a while. And I watched another video somewhere where it said to just use the color pipes feature
Mm-hmm.
just to see where it's running. Is that a good way to find out why my notes aren't there? 'Cause that's worked for me so far.
Yeah, so if you've got a situation where you're able to run calculations, you got no tags, and then all of a sudden they disappeared, and you're not able to run calculations, or the program is populating zero flow, zero pressure demand, that usually means that there's a disconnection somewhere. And you obviously certainly have the ability to select the remote area and then run a color pipes by, and then select ability to flow from supply. And that will color all pipes that are connected to your water supply blue up to the point where they're disconnected, and then beyond that everything will be gray.
Okay, yeah. That's what I had used it for earlier. I was just making sure that was the right approach to use for that. So,
Yeah, and that's fine. Occasionally, once we get the remote areas dialed in, especially on gridded systems, I like to double check and make sure that all of my lines are connected as expected by changing the color pipes from ability to flow from supply to just flow. So if we've got a gridded branch line that's disconnected at a sprinkler, there's a slight gap. When we color pipes by ability to flow, that entire line will color blue because there's the ability to flow water from both ends of that branch line up to the separation. But when we change the color pipes by back to flow, we'll see that that entire line is not highlighted because it's disconnected in the middle of the grid.
okay. Yeah, that does make sense. Okay.
So I use that as kind of a secondary fail-safe check. But initially, like you said, if you lose your no tags, generally coloring pipes by ability to flow will give us a visual indicator of where we've got a disconnection.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you for your help.
Yeah, you got it.
I think that all makes sense now. So, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Feel free to hang out. I'm gonna check on Mike. If you have any other questions, I'll swing back to you in a minute.
All right. I gotta go to lunch here, but.
Fair enough. I understand.
If I have another problem, there's another session this afternoon.
Yes, there is.
Okay. If I have another problem, I might come to that. All right.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
You got it.